Hey there, this is the lesson notes for lesson 3.5, graphing linear equations in slope-intercept form. Just as a reminder, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. In class, we're going to be using this as our opener. There is two issues within this one. You'll need to find them and fix them. Our learning targets for today is that we have to be able to know how to find the slope of a line. The second thing we're going to do is talk about how we use slope-intercept form of an equation. And then we'll use slopes and y-intercepts to find word problems. You've done slopes a lot in the past, so some of this might seem like a little bit of a review, which is good. So there's a lot to write on this one. I would encourage you guys to write the following things. Write this whole paragraph talking about slopes are change in y over change in x. So you should have things like rise over run, change in y over change in x. y2 minus y1 is the same as x2 minus x1. Also, another way to write within this one is to have the change in y over the change in x. So that's another way to write these things. The big concept here in the bottom, so I'm going to highlight this. We always read lines left to right. So if it rises, it's going to be positive. If it falls, then it's going to be negative. But again, we always read lines left to right. So here's some example problems with this one. So this first one here, again, we're looking for slope. So just as a reminder, slope, our m value, is the same thing as our change in y over our change in x as we're going left to right. So for this first one here, our y change, our up and down change, is 4. Our x change from left to right is 6, because we're going from left to right. So this means that our slope here is going to be 4 over 6, which reduces down to 2/3. What this means is that for every time we go over 6, we go up 4. Also means that every time we go over 3, we go up 2, because this reduces. This one over here, our y change is -3, our x change is 2, so therefore we have a slope of -3 over 2. Simply means that every time we go over 2, we go down 3. Over 2, down 3. This is as simplified as this one gets, so we can't use anything like ones or anything else in here. When we look at graphs, it's a little bit easier than looking at tables, but we do need to be able to know how to work with tables. The big thing here is to always look and see what is our change for each one of these. So as we move forward, you would get changes like this for each one. Here, this is a change of 3, this is a change of 3, and this is a change of 3. This is a change of -6, this is a change of -6, and this is a change of -6. Meaning that for A, our slope is going to be m is equal to -6 over 3, because of the change in y over the change in x, and this would simply divide down to -2. Don't need double negative signs there. Alright, do that for the rest of them, and these are the answers that you should get. Alright, as you guys work through B, you would have a change of 2 for each one of the x's and a change of 0 for the y's, meaning our change in y over change in x was 0 over 2. 0 divided by 2 is just 0, so there is no change here. This would be a flat line at y equals 2. For the last one, the x values do not change, but the y values do, which means we have 3 divided by 0. Well, you can't divide anything by 0, so that makes this one undefined. It also means that this would be a vertical line at the point x equals -3. Alright, so some major notes as we continue to move forward. Positive slope lines, left to right, are increasing. They're like going up a hill. Negative slope lines are decreasing. If you're sliding on this on a sled, you'd be going a lot faster with this one because you're actually going down. Horizontal lines are ones with no slope of 0. And then undefined lines are ones that are vertical. So these are x equals lines. So this brings us to slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b, something you guys have seen before. The b value in this equation represents the y-intercept, whereas the m value represents the slope. If, for some reason, there is no m value, or the m value is equal to 0, and there's 0 times x would be 0, then you'd just be left with a y equals b line, a constant function which is a flat horizontal line. So for each of these we want to find the slope and y-intercept. As a reminder, you have y equals mx plus b. So here our slope is 3 because it's what's in front of the x, and then our y-intercept is -4. For the b, there is no x and there's no m, so we would just have a y-intercept. So this one have a y-intercept at 6.5. Our last one is not solved in the same format. So what a lot of people would do wrong with this is that they would just say, oh, there's a -2 and there's a -5. We don't want you to do that. You need to solve for y first here. When you start to rearrange this, you get the equation like this. -y is equal to 5x minus 2, and then you'd have to divide everything by that negative, so you get y equals -5x plus 2. At this point, you can now solve for that m and b because it's in the proper format. So your slope would be -5, and your y-intercept would be a +2. Again, same thing with this one. You have to solve around and rearrange it first. This one rearranges to y is equal to -2x plus 2. We would start with it at y equals 2, so our slope is -2. Our y-intercept is 2. As we graph this on a line, it would look like the following. So when you graph this line, you'd start at +2, you're down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. Make sure you dot out all the way, and then you draw your line through. Our x-intercept would be here at the point -1, 0. So this is our x-intercept. Alright, as we move forward, there's going to be more problems. So one type of problem is going to give you a very wordy math problem, and you're going to have to interpret them. So when we look at this, a function g models a relationship in which the dependent variable increases 3 units for every time the independent variable increases by 1. Given that g of 0 is equal to 3, that means when the x value is 0, the y value is 3. Find the slope, the y-intercept, and the x-intercept. So as this works through, it works through each piece one at a time. The first thing is the slope. If the relationship is increasing 3 units for every time the independent relationship increases by 1, that means we're going over 1, up 3, which if we have to go backwards, then we would say this is back 1, down 3, back 1, down 3, because as we go forward, it's over 1, up 3, over 1, up 3. So that's how we get our slope of 3 over 1. Then our y-intercept. We were given this as our input was 0, and our output was 3. That gives us our y-intercept already, and the y-intercept of this one is 0, -3. Our x-intercept, as we went back 1, down 3, got us to a point of -1, 0, and we could also, this would be a point that when we plug this into the equation, it would also work. Again, another type of word problem is that as we look at these, we have different types of word problems. So this one has the function of height as given by time. So height is still the output, time is still the input. You'll notice here we have a time graph and a height graph. We're going negative because we're talking about submarines or submersibles. So something that goes underneath the water, which is why it makes sense that we're going under the sea here, or in the negatives. The negative 13,000 is where it starts. And the 650T models how fast it's rising. So for every time, or every minute in this case, because T is in minutes, we're going to go up 650 feet. This is the type of graph that is a little bit easier to graph and figure out once you have points. So we're going to graph the function. You could use Desmos or GeoGebra or anything that way, graphing calculator to help you out. The domain and range. So the domain goes from 0 of time when it starts to 20 when it gets up to the surface. And then the range starts at negative 13,000 and goes all the way up to 0 up to surface level. The slope here was already talked about what it means. The time intercept of 20 is that it takes 20 minutes to get from negative 13,000 feet up to surface level. This is your homework for the day. Good luck. It is 30 problems. It's a little bit bigger. Take your time on it. You might have to come back to it and do it in more than one sitting.